skin, and then we follow the musculoperiosteal flap. I will be developing a musculoperiosteal flap like this in the next step. And further to that, I'll develop another flap below the skin in this area and below the periosteum, between the calvarium and the periosteum. So once you do that, one is that this is the two flap technique. So, and the incisions, they do not overlie each other. So basically it prevents one in the immediate post-op, it prevents the chances of infection, and in the long run it gives you the strength of the periosteum. This is not bone, this is still there is a musculoperiosteal flap is there. So we take the anterior skin flap anteriorly, and then we'll take the posterior skin flap posteriorly. And this is the pelvis flap. Now we are incising the musculoperiosteum in a triangular fashion. So here it is broad because the blood supply will be coming from this area, and as we go posteriorly it is smaller. After that cortical mastoidectomy is done, which is not a proper cortical mastoidectomy. You will see at the end of that we'll be having the edges along the cortical mastoidectomy. We call it cortical mastoidectomy because it is not being done for a disease clearance. It is only being done for the one is to gain access to the middle ear through the posterior tympanotomy, and another is to actually lodge your extra length of electrode into the mastoid wall which you create. So earlier, if I talk about a decade back, most of the people who were doing it through the posterior tympanotomy, and the dictum was that make the posterior canal wall. This is the posterior bony canal wall. Make the posterior bony canal wall as thin as possible. But over the years, the experience has been that there were some cases of electrode extrusion into the ear canal. Not out of it, but into the ear canal, because the bone gives way. If it is very thin, it gives way, and over the ear, the skin will give way. So what we follow today is that we drill as much as is required only to get into the middle ear. The view of the round window should be okay. We do not run after that. The posterior canal wall should be thin. So that step is out of our steps. So this is how we gain access into the middle ear. Here is your facial nerve, here is your vada tympani, and then it is, if you use it properly, it is around 2.2 to almost 3.5 millimeter space, which you can actually make use of. If you find, if you need that, you need more space to see into the middle ear, what you can do is that you can drill this bone further. Now this is what I am doing is that I am removing the bony overhang so that I can see the round window in all its extent. So we always make sure that we are seeing the 360 degree of the round window membrane, because that this is the round window membrane which you are seeing. You can see that this is the stapedius tendon, this is pyramid, and this is the round window membrane. If you see that we are seeing all the corners, the full 360 degree of the round window. This is important because we want to insert our electrode in this trajectory. Now I'm opening the round window membrane, and then you get the glimpse of this is the
round window
scala, this is the scala basically. So superiorly will be your scala media, inferiorly will be your scala
Electrode
tympani,
direct
where you want your
scala
electrode to go.
tympani.
So it's a very delicate, fine structure, and you do not want your electrode to actually hit the basilar membrane. You do not want your electrode to hit the spiral. So this is the metal electrode, and then you use the claws and the forceps which are being provided by the company. And once you do that, you fix it up with the fascia or fascia plus muscles or muscle. So we prefer using the muscle, but yes, then there are people who prefer using the fascia. So once the electrode is in, the extra length of electrode is placed here. We take care that this part goes down and then the rest of the part comes up. So why posterior tympanotomy for years it is still being used? Because